Hello, I'm Pam Komar, Director of Theater, Music, and Youth Programming for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. On behalf of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust and the Humanities Center at Carnegie Mellon University, welcome to the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival at Home. I'd like to introduce Daniel Fitzpatrick from our presenting sponsor, Citizens Bank. Daniel.
Hello, I'm Dan Fitzpatrick, President of Citizens Bank for the Mid-Atlantic region. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival at Home. All of us as citizens are committed to the success of our customers, communities, and local economies, and we're proud to support the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival at Home because it provides meaningful dialogue and connection on our deep cultural richness and diversity right when we need it most. It's often said that challenging times bring out the best in people, and we hope that these interviews with artists, academics, and intellectual innovators working to make Pittsburgh a better place will lead you to think, question, reflect, and aspire to not only understand what's happening in the world around us, but to take meaningful action to help bring about change. So thank you again to the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust for hosting the Pittsburgh Humanities Festival at Home. We're grateful for your leadership in galvanizing us to talk about these critically important issues and look forward to joining the discussion. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to Citizens Bank for their support. I'd also like to thank EQT Foundation for their support. Financial support is a critical piece of our ability to produce programs like the Humanities Festival at Home. If any of our viewers wish to make a financial contribution to support our work, please visit trustarts.org, support humanities. Please be aware that our speakers will answer a few audience questions at the end of the discussion. Please post your questions in the comments on either Facebook or YouTube, and we will select a few for that portion of our conversation. It is now my pleasure to invite you to join in conversation with Teen Changemakers. Please welcome Ashley Lynn Priori, founder and CEO of the Queen's Gambit and community activist. Hi.
Hi, Pam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for today.
Thank you for being here. Take it away.
I'm very thrilled to introduce some of the young change makers in this region. Young people are so important to the future and prosperity of this region. And first, I want to introduce Abby Rickenmarks, who is a 17-year-old at Fox Chapel High School. Hi, Abby.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. And now I would like to welcome Zion Ross, who is 16 years old from Pittsburgh Kappa. Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. This is such an exciting day. And the first question I want to ask you both, we can start with Abby, is tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, why are you here? And really, we just want to learn from you first. So Abby, take it away.
Absolutely. So why am I here? Big question. Ultimately, you know, I've been trying to get involved in activism for quite a while. There are so many issues within our society that, you know, affect me personally, affect people in our community. So it's really important to give back when you recognize that there are problems. My big thing is education reform, education activism, because there are so many different forms of discrimination within education. So for the past few months, myself, as well as 19 other students, have been putting together a symposium type event, completely virtual, a day long, in which students from Western Pennsylvania, we have 9 counties right now, are going to be able to learn about discrimination of all forms that come up in their schools. So I'm personally very, very excited. We have about 90 kids that are going to be attending as of now, and we have another week for registration. So my hope is to get that into triple digits. Ultimately, the hope is just to really give that opportunity to anyone who wants it.
Wonderful. And Zion?
Well, as she said, I'm Zion Ross. I'm 16, and I am on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council for Pittsburgh Public Schools. So pretty much sophomore year of high school, we were elected by our peers to just be the student representatives on the board for the district. And pretty much I'm just here to pretty much hear the concerns of the students, especially during this time. It's very important to make sure that the students' needs are met, you know. So pretty much that's just why I'm here, and that's what I do.
So Zion, stay with us here for a second. I'm really curious where your passion started. Was there a certain time that really defined, really you're getting into youth advocacy, or when did it start?
Well, my mom is a principal for the Pittsburgh Public Schools, and my sister, who graduated, she was on the Student Advisory Council before me. So pretty much I just got to watch over them for my whole life, pretty much, and I got to see what they did, and I wanted to make sure that I've always been the one for my friends to like speak up for them. Just when they don't feel comfortable or like teachers aren't listening, and I've always been comfortable doing that. So I kind of wanted to put it into something. And when I was elected by my student, that was just a kind of an honor, that the students elected me. And so I don't know if there was a specific time, but I think it was just kind of building up. And I'm glad that I have somewhere where I can share it now, being on the Student Advisory Council.
Wonderful. And Abby, what about you?
It's been a long road. I started with mental health advocacy. It's still very, very important to me. Still working with organizations that deal with mental health. But I think slowly, I'm both Jewish and queer. And so I think growing up in that community, there's so much intersectionality between issues. And, being a high schooler and the fact that school is, my life, it's one of those things that I recognize that there are so many different forms of discrimination. And so education reform is really like the first step that we need, in which we can then educate students who can then educate, the broader public. So I think that it hasn't just been this is the reason why I want to do it. This is the reason why I want to do activism. But I think it's just a culmination of so many different issues that we recognize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, a change maker is such a hard term to describe, but in your opinion, what makes you a change maker? And I think it's really important that, we talk about your age in this, because 17 and 16, that's incredible for everything that you've done. So what do you think makes you a change maker? Abby, you can start.
So when I hear the term teen change maker, honestly, I feel like a complete imposter. It's one of those things that yes, I've done advocacy work. I've tried to be an activist. That is my goal in life, is to continue helping people. But when I hear, I'm like, I haven't really done that much. There's no way that this is really me. But it's one of those things that I think a lot of us are teen change makers. I think that all of us can recognize that there are issues within our communities, and from there take action, whether that be something big, whether that be something small. I think that there are so many different ways for people to be teen change makers. And it's one of those things that I recognize that even though me and Zion are here, there are so many people who, even if they're not, doing something huge, they're really making a difference in their community. So I'm so in awe of the other kids that go to my school, kids that I know around, the community. I'm just so impressed with the amount of change that we are making.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Zion, what about you?
That's such a big label, it's one that's hard to fulfill in a way. But I think it's easy to be a teen and be a bystander. With everything that's going on in the world right now, it's easy to be overwhelmed and kind of just sit by and watch and kind of try to find your place. And I think me being a teen change maker, I kind of just want to use my platform, if that makes sense, and build a platform that is able to spread awareness on different things. And that kind of makes me feel more in place with everything and the chaos that's kind of happening in the world right now. Mm-hmm. And I think people that are willing to step up and talk about it rather than just be a bystander, watch and find their place, I think that's what separates me from other people. And I think there's so many other people that are just like me, especially in my school. I see a lot of my friends and peers going to protests and speaking their opinions on different things. And I support them in the best way,
Absolutely. And this next question, I mean, we get this a lot as young people, as people under 25, but we still get asked this question, and I think it's still an important one to ask. Why, in your opinion, does youth advocacy, youth voice matter? Why do you guys think it matters? Abby?
So, I mean, right, there's the age old, we're the next generation. You have to keep pushing forward. So I think that's part of it, right? Like it might be cliche, but it's still there. But I think ultimately, as we grow up, we can't wait for that to happen. And I think right now we see it. We need to be doing things now. It can't wait, another 10, 15 years. So I think that teens, when I was younger, not super involved in politics, but I recognize that like the kids today, obviously I'm a kid, but the kids today who are younger than me, so involved, which is phenomenal because there are so many problems that they're able to recognize. So I think that there are so many reasons to be a teen activist. There are so many reasons to get involved and to stay involved, and they're all incredibly important. So whether you do it for yourself and you recognize in your community that there are problems, or whether you recognize that you have the privilege and then you need to uplift the voices of people in other communities, there are so many reasons to do it.
Absolutely. Zion?
I mean, I feel like youth voices do get shut down a lot, just kind of naturally with the people that are in charge, even with the government. And I think it's kind of natural for people that are older just to feel wiser, because a lot of the time they are. But I feel like, I don't know, I think we're very aware with everything that's going on. And I think our opinions are just as valid as anybody else's. And I think, I don't know, that's kind of a hard question just because I feel like my instinct answer would just be, yes, we're important, but to describe it. But I think that our voices can be just so loud and we're so passionate, especially this generation, like my generation and my peers in my generation. I feel like we're very passionate about how we feel about certain things. And I feel like our voices just need to be heard. And I think with what I'm doing on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, just kind of my way of putting that into education and making sure that my peers aren't being silenced with how they feel about things going around in school. Because at the end of the day, it's us that are experiencing it.
Absolutely. And for all of the young people watching right now, how do we get involved? What advice do you guys have for young people who want to get involved in their community? Because we know how important getting involved right now is. So what advice can you share?
Me? Oh, I mean, I'll go first. I don't think that opportunities are hidden. I think that we see a lot of the opportunities, but we just think that someone else is going to take it. So we kind of just wait in line. But I think what's important is to make sure that you're the one that takes the opportunity. You're probably the one that they're looking for whatever opportunity you decide to take. I mean, with Superintendent Student Advisory Council, I didn't put myself out there. Like someone put me out there, and then people got to vote for me. And I wasn't even the one that decided to put myself out there, but people voted for me, and I wasn't even the one that decided to do that. And so it kind of just shows, like, I don't know, you might have a lot more to say than you give yourself credit for. So
Absolutely. Abby?
I mean, if there are young people listening, you're already taking the first step of, hearing our voices and continuing to be a youth activist. And so I think that, I feel like opportunity seems like a big thing, right? Like what Zion and I are doing are huge. And so I think that what we're doing, there are so many things that are smaller, but equally important. And like Zion said, there are so many opportunities. However, if you are really passionate about something and there isn't an opportunity, you can make the opportunity yourself. One thing that's great about, not that COVID is good, but in terms of having a virtual platform, so much easier in terms of getting people connected. It's less expensive. There are so many amazing things. So of course, being positive and looking at that bright side, like it doesn't matter how old you are. There are people in your community, in your grade, kids that are younger than you that want to have these conversations. I know that, I'm in high school, but I've talked to middle school kids who are so passionate about this, but they feel like they don't have a voice because they're so young. Where in actuality, like, you have a voice, you just need to be the first one to do it.
Absolutely. And I think it also has to do a lot with passion, right? If you have a passion for something, when we look at the issues facing young people right now, we have climate change, we have, student loans, all of these issues. And so for young people out there, I mean, how did you guys find your passions? I mean, did you realize that there's so much going on in the world right now that you need to continue to build on movements, or really, how did you find your passion in something that you knew you wanted to get involved with? Abby, you can. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I think your passion kind of comes natural to who you are as a person in society, you know. Being a Black female in society, a young Black female in society, that kind of gives me a start as to what things I'm interested in. And also, my school is a very accepting place, and I'm very grateful for that. And so they make it a natural thing to express your opinions and go to protests and express the things that you think are important. And also having majors there, like I'm a vocal major, and it kind of gives you a little platform to start with, to figure out who you are and like what you want to do with society and the things that you want to do in society and how you want to make an impact.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Abby?
I think that similar to what Zion was saying, I think that even if I wasn't necessarily passionate about certain issues, because they affect me personally, I have to get involved. And some of it is my choice. Like in terms of mental health, you know, when I was younger, I struggled with anxiety and depression. And now I'm to the point where like I recognize what I went through and I need to help other people. Like it is my duty to understand what I went through and bring that back to the community. But for other things, like I recognize that this could personally affect my safety. And so I think that, yes, I am passionate about it because it's part of my identity. But at the same time, it's like, even if I wasn't passionate about it, like because it's such a pertinent part of me, I have to be involved. And like, for me, right, I'm still white passing. Like there are so many things I still have privilege. And yet I can recognize that like, if this is affecting me, like how would this affect other people? So it's just really important to, you know, not only be passionate about things that affect you, but I think just being a member of society, you recognize that there are so many, you know, inequalities, inequity. So yeah, I mean, I know that that's a very broad term of like how I became passionate. But I think that it, you know, this is me personally, but I think it differs for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And that's wonderful. And I mean, you two are such inspirations. And real quickly, I'd just love to hear, are there any current projects you both are working on that you're excited about right now? As we look into almost getting into a new year, which is crazy. Any specific projects that you'd like to share with anyone?
Not anything too big, but kind of just taking small steps to make sure that everyone in doing classes online and making sure everyone's comfortable with that. So recently we've put out a survey at my school just to make sure, just to hear everyone's input. Because I think that being in classes virtually, it's kind of hard to make sure your voices are heard, even on the small things, because I noticed, my mom being the principal, that teachers are going through it too. It's new for everyone. And it's kind of weird. It's very uncomfortable. But I think it's just something we've been learning to adapt to on the teacher side, on the principal side, on everybody's side. It's kind of just weird. So making sure that the students' voices are heard is what I'm doing on my part. And then on kind of like my mom's part, she's making sure that the teacher's needs are met and that her needs are met and her peers' needs are met. So,
Abby?
I think that, right, I mean, obviously, you know, these issues are always important, but given what's gone on, both in terms of the pandemic, in terms of racism, you know, there are even more needs that are being met in terms of spreading awareness and getting involved. So for me, I am spearheading a symposium that deals, as I talked about before, that deals with discrimination in education. It was kind of like a dream project. I was like, oh, this would be so fun if I could do it for Allegheny County. Like, this is what I want to do. But it was like, that's not going to happen. It's fine. I'll, you know, keep doing what I'm doing. I'm making a difference, so it's fine. But I was like, you know what? This needs to be done. I know other kids that want to be involved with this. Like, I'm sure that we can get people. And I'm happy to say that myself, as well as my co-founder, we put together a group of, there are 20 of us who are helping to plan this. We have like 24 speakers, different breakout sessions, a keynote from the Dean of Pitt School of Education. There are going to be about 90 kids so far, 34 different schools, 9 different counties. So I think that to me, I never dreamed that I could make a project that's this big. But there are so many problems right now within society that I think a bunch of us recognize that like this needed to be done, and because of that, so many students want to participate.
It's incredible. Hi, Pam.
Hi. Wow, I am so impressed. You both are up to so much in our community and in our world. I think it's just fantastic. If you all are ready, there's some questions coming in from the internet. Our friend Eric commented that there's a lot of energy and momentum around societal change in 2020, and how do we keep pressing for change in 2021 and beyond when some of the passion might die down after we get to the new year? Any suggestions?
I'll go. I think you just acknowledging that is the first step. And I think that you might not be giving yourself enough credit. Like, you might be able to put whatever you feel to action more than you think, even if it's just in baby steps, whatever societal change is motivating you. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot in terms, I think one of the biggest things we see is in terms of social media, right? People get really empowered about something for like a week and then it starts to die down. And it's one of those things that you have to take it upon yourself to continue pushing forward with that effort, even if other people aren't. And it's really just making yourself be heard about a specific issue that you are passionate about and going against the majority of people.
That's terrific. I think those are great answers. Caitlin wrote in, what strategies do you have for continuing activism when faced with opposition or forces trying to quiet your voice?
Oh, I'll go. I mean, I think you just really can't, it sounds like kind of ironic, but like you really just can't listen to it. If you really believe in what you're passionate in, then you really just can't let anything stop you. And I know that's something we hear a lot, but it's the truth. You really can't let anything stop you, and you just have to learn from the people around you and make sure that their voices are being heard as well. And I think that that's the best you can do.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's one of those things that, like, yes, we're young, but as we, get older, and even now, we are the activists, So yes, of course, there's always going to be opposition, and we need to recognize that. But then we need to overcome that. And as long as you truly believe in what you are fighting for, then, the voices that are trying to quiet yours shouldn't affect you.
Can I just say one more thing that I thought of as Abby was talking? I think being faced with opposition is something that's always going to come. And I feel like I'm curious to what people that have opposing opinions, I think starting the conversations with them is a big deal. I think I'm curious of what other people think. And if they're not coming at you or trying to silence your voice in an aggressive way or in a way that's unsafe, I feel like maybe try and understand what they think and educate them, because that might be something that'll be closer to getting your solution.
It's a great suggestion. Wonderful. Let's see. Ben wrote in, what traits would you say are good for teen leaders to have? I think this is really, really great. Sometimes people don't see, their own strengths. They often focus on their weaknesses. So any suggestion of what kind of skill sets or traits you think you need to be a teen change maker?
I can start for this one.
Great.
I think it's one of those things that when you look up, like what traits are good, like what traits should I have? I think that, there's a set list, but I don't think that list is correct. I think it's one of those things that we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and those need to be acknowledged regardless. So for example, even if you're really quiet and, maybe people are like, oh, being quiet, not good for a leader, but then you're the one that is listening to everyone. You become the better leader. You become almost like a servant leader. So I think it's one of those things that I wouldn't be like, it's this trait, it's this trait, it's this trait. Like, these are the ones you have to have. I think it's how you use the traits that you possess and truly wanting to become a leader that make you a leader.
Wow. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I think using your traits to listen to other people and kind of just being able to work in a group, I think, and being able to communicate your needs and other people's needs, but also, like Abby said, being able to listen. I think it's something that's almost underrated. But I think being able to listen to other people, I think we tend to talk over each other a lot, just in different things in society and what we think is important. But when we really listen to even people that have opposing views, I think that's when change starts to really happen.
That's wonderful. I think that was the inspiration behind the first part of the title for our session today, Cutting Through the Noise. We're in such a busy world, more so than ever before. And cutting through and getting your turn to be heard. And Bridget just wrote in with a great question that relates to that. Bridget asked, was it difficult to get adults to help you get your project started? And if it was, how do you present and introduce your ideas to adults? A lot of times in our society, kids are just written off. They're like, oh, they don't have anything important to say, which I totally disagree with. But I love Bridget's question, so I don't know if anyone has anything to say to that.
I think we tend to find adults sometimes that are closed-minded. And I think the biggest way that we can communicate with them is to acknowledge the fact that we appreciate that they're wise and that they have things to tell us, but we have some things to tell them too, because the world is just constantly changing. And there's stuff that even people younger than me notice that I might not even notice. And so I think trying to communicate with them and letting them know that they're acknowledged as well, I think might be the first step. I know that there's been teachers that have tried to not listen to me or silence me just because I'm more of an outgoing student, and I might challenge what they're teaching in the classroom because it's supposed to be benefiting the students. And so when it's not, I kind of start to look at them and see, is there any way that you can make it more student-based, No, but I think that letting them know that they're acknowledged might be the first step to having those conversations with them.
So I am going to take a completely opposite approach because I think that there are definitely two ways. There are the adults that shut you down, but I think that there are also so many adults that really want to help. What I've noticed with my symposium, the speakers that I've contacted, they're like, this is amazing. I can't believe that you're in high school and that there are high schoolers that are interested in this. This is all I've ever wanted. I've reached out to different organizations as well so that they can help promote the event. And I've had some truly wonderful conversations with them, just how they're inspired, which first, as a high schooler, the fact that someone can be quote unquote inspired, I don't know. But they use the term oh, I'm so inspired by what you're doing, the fact that there's so much interest. So I think that there are adults that want to help. It's about finding those adults, because once you find them, they really want to help. They recognize that we are pushing forward. So obviously, Zion is right in terms of there are some adults that definitely do that. But I wouldn't necessarily say get discouraged by adults, because they can also be very helpful.
That's wonderful. You're both so observant and perceptive and so dedicated to your causes. We have time for one more comment from each of you. If there's something I didn't ask or Ashley didn't ask that you want to add to the discussion, any final thoughts?
I haven't really gotten to talk to Abby much in this past time that I've gotten to know her, but just that I really support her cause, and it's really refreshing to see someone just as dedicated in the chaos of the world right now. And I just wanted to commend her, and that's all though.
And I will do the same with Zion. It's phenomenal to see how much you care about your peers, about making your school a better place. I think that right now school is kind of our constant, even though it's COVID and all of that. It's nice to have some calmness, and so to make school, which should be a place where you feel safe, so much better, is truly remarkable.
Thank you both. Thank you for those kind words. Thank you for the energy you're putting into the community. I wish you so much luck with all of your causes and your future projects. And thank you, Ashley, for hosting today and for asking these questions. It's been a great conversation, and I'm just so happy we all got together through this, and we look forward to having more discussions in the future like this. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Had a
thank
great
you.
time.
Thank you.
So I'm so glad that we were able to have this kind of conversation today, despite the pandemic. I know that what we discussed today will inspire thought and introspection and further conversation among our viewers. Thank you again to the EQT Foundation and to Citizens Bank. Their support is so important in having conversations like this and presenting arts from all around the world here in Pittsburgh. Please consider making a financial contribution to support the festival's mission and future programming at trustarts.org/supporthumanities. I hope you'll join us next week for more smart talk about stuff that matters. We have another great session coming up. On October 16th, the festival will host a conversation with Jonathan D. Marino, and it's entitled, "Everyone Wants to Go to Heaven, but No One Wants to Die." There's more information at trustarts.org. Check it out, and I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for joining us.